Welcome back for another castles video. My name is Ollie, and today we're looking at where the best starting location is for each of the 10 boards available on Board Game Arena. This video assumes you have a basic understanding of the core strategy of this game. If you need a refresher, have a look at my basic strategy video linked in the video description below. For each board, I look at where the top players typically place their starting castle, depending on whether they are first or second to play. Let's first look at what are the characteristics that make up a good starting location, using board 1 as an example. The best starting location typically has the following characteristics. It is next to small regions to get lots of early game phase points. It is next to a mine tile, since early silver in a game is really helpful. It is next to ship locations, as it is important to control the ships in the game. And it is in a central location to give more expansion possibilities. For each castle tile, we see the percentages of games that top players chose that location, either as the first or second player. The number next to the percentage is the average score that was obtained from those games. For example, this location was chosen in 59% of the games where a top player was player 1 on board 1. This location was chosen in 41% of the games, while the other two locations have never been chosen. Interestingly, when starting as player 2, the percentages are the same, though that is just a coincidence. The central location is next to one small region, a mine tile, ship tiles, and is, well, in the most central location possible. And yet many players, myself included, choose the other location to start, both as starting player and second player. That is because the central castle hex counts as a small region, and if you start there, you lose the chance of getting points from it. Completing the one tile castle region is worth 11 points in Phase A or 9 points in Phase B, which explains most of the difference in the average scores between the two locations. Also, player 1 will typically take the mine, which makes the central location somewhat less appealing for player 2. On to board number 2. Let's run through the characteristics for choosing a good starting location. First up are the one tile regions. Their locations favor the left castle tile as a starting location. However, it's also worth highlighting the two tile regions, as it is often possible to complete one or even two of them in the first phase. That makes all three other castle tiles look better. With the mine tiles, their locations favor the three outside castle tiles, while the ship locations greatly favor the central castle tile. And finally, with the central location, the outside castle tiles are in the worst possible positions on the board, as there are only 3 neighboring tiles that you can expand to. The main drawback with the central tile is that there's no mine nearby, though it is not impossible to reach it by the end of Phase A. Top players mostly go for the central castle tile as player 1 and almost always when player 2. The first player will likely get the mine, so player 2 has no benefit being next to a mine, but plenty of benefit being next to the ships, as they can easily become first player in Phase B. Meanwhile, player 1 only starts on the left castle tile 1/3 of the time, despite being next to 2 one-tile regions. That is because you have little room for expansion. Worse, if you're not playing a building strategy, then you don't want to waste tile placements on this one tile to get to the ship, because it is unlikely you will finish this region by the game's end. But then, what do you do if your opponent takes both ships? You would be forced to play for buildings. All to say that being boxed in reduces your flexibility. For myself, I will play on the central tile both when starting as player 1 and player 2. Let's look at board 3. This board has a beautiful yellow donut around the central castle tile, but don't start there if you are player 2. If there's no yellow tile in the black market, then player 1 could take the 2 yellow tiles on their first move and now you're blocked. Single tile regions are here, favoring the bottom right castle as the starting tile, and to a lesser extent, the other 2 castle tiles. Top and right castle tiles are next to or close to a mine and ship, and the top castle tile is more centrally located. Here's where top players start. The bottom right castle tile is the overwhelming favorite for both player 1 and player 2, and it is also where I start for both players. The key for me is that it is easier to complete these 2 one-tile regions than these 2. If you don't roll well, you'll lose the mine and possibly the castle. On the other hand, you have plenty of time to claim a ship and building tile, so getting a good first roll is not as critical. Next up is board number 4. This is the first board where the best starting spot changes depending on whether you are player 1 or 2. The top left and bottom right spots are no good, as you can get blocked from expansion, just like on board 3. The bottom left castle has the better setup, with 2 single tile regions and a double region. The top right castle has a double mine and a single ship that is unreachable without the mine. So why is the top right castle location favored by player 2 more than twice as often as the bottom left castle location? The answer lies in the importance of being first player for the next phase. In the first roll, most likely player 1 takes the mine and may not get a ship. Player 2 can then get one or both ships. They can place both ships easily, and if they do, they will have first player advantage for the rest of the game. So the question is it better to give up the early region points or to secure first player for the rest of the game? Based on the equal average scores for player 2, it seems that it is a wash. In my games, I start on the bottom left tile as player 1 and the top right as player 2, but I have been struggling recently as player 2 because my opponents have often been able to take a mine and ship, which means I have to wait to play my ship until the end of the phase to ensure being first player in phase B. That leaves me boxed in, only able to initially play a yellow tile on this 5 tile, so if I get poor rolls, I use up a lot of workers. Let's move on to board 5. This board favors the bottom right tile because there are several 1 and 2 tile regions easily accessible, especially the mine and ships. Interestingly, while no top players have started on the bottom left castle tile, I have played several games where my non-top player opponent has started there as player 2. At first glance, it seems like a good spot because of these 2 one-tile regions. But the problem is that you're very far from the mines and ships. With the other 2 starting castle spots, there's nothing that really stands out. I start on the bottom right tile as both player 1 and 2. Let's have a look at board number 6. The central starting tile is great, not only because it is in the center, but also because it is next to ships, has a mine tile, and just beyond there is this 2-tile city region. As player 1, it is my favorite starting spot, as with top players. The interesting choice is for player 2, where top players favor the top castle tile as their starting location. Once again, the key is to realize that it is unlikely that player 2 will get the mine. I start at the top as player 2 because not only am I likely to complete the 2-tile city region, but if I do get the mine, then I can reach this mine tile. Also important is that there's a knowledge tile right next door. We haven't talked much about knowledge tiles in this video, so now is perhaps a good time to mention that there are a few knowledge tiles that are very powerful if you can get them placed on your board early. Therefore, it is helpful to be near a knowledge tile when placing your starting castle in order to gain the big benefits of these knowledge tiles. I'm planning a separate video dedicated entirely to knowledge tiles, so I will leave the more detailed discussion for then. The average scores for player 2 suggest maybe the center tile is the better option, and I am overselling the knowledge tile benefit. Interesting. Finally, the 2 bottom castle tiles are weak because you are greatly boxed in. The left is away from ships, and the right means you must play animals right away into a big region. Let's move on to board number 7. This board is pretty straightforward to discuss as it follows the general pattern of look for the mine and ship tiles and place accordingly. Here are the mine locations, so that favors the bottom 2 castle tiles. Here are the ship locations, so that favors the bottom left castle tile. A small number of times a top player has started on the right castle tile, which is a bit odd, given the importance of ships. The average score is high, but remember it is on a very small sample, so the reliability is low. Starting on the bottom left also gives future access to all of these small regions, making it the one that I choose as both player 1 and 2. Next up is the infamous board number 8. Infamous because of the consistently higher scores obtained on this board compared to others. That is due to all of the 1 and 2 tile regions. All 4 castle spots are good on that front, although the bottom right is a bit better as it is next to the 1 tile mine region. That is where I start as player 1, as do most top players. The choice for player 2 is a bit more complicated. If we assume that we will not get the mine, then that makes the bottom right tile a bit weaker. The top left tile looks better because it is next to this 2-tile knowledge region. And remember the discussion we had about knowledge tiles when talking about board 6. One drawback with the top left castle is that it is a bit far from the large animal region. You usually need to play animals to win on board 8, so if there's a good 4-animal tile available, it is often a good idea to take it. That makes the bottom 2 starting locations a bit better, especially because you can cross over to get to the other castle. Lately, I've been starting on the top left castle tile as player 2 because I tend to play for an early yellow tile, and if the mine should happen to be available, then I am well positioned to play it. Okay, on to board number 9. Board 9 is another board where the best starting location is based on whether you are player 1 or 2. The right castle tile is the most central, is next to ships, and a 1-tile knowledge region. But the mine is a bit far, and worse, it is a 2-tile region, so you won't complete it on phase A. The top tile has no ships or mines next to it, while the left tile has no mine and no 1-tile regions. That leaves the bottom tile, which is next to the 1-tile mine region and the 1-tile knowledge region next to it, but is boxed in. In addition, the early expansion to the 1-tile regions is along the outside of the board. Ideally, you are expanding into the middle of the board in order to quickly reach the other key regions. So, for player 1, top players and myself take the bottom tile because of the mine, but as player 2, we take the right tile to secure the knowledge region and ships. Like board 4, if you can get both ships in phase A, then you're pretty much guaranteed to control first player for the rest of the game, hence why 18% of the time top players chose this location as player 1. One more board to go. Board 10 has all castle tiles on the edge of the board, so that is no help. All castle tiles have multiple 2-tile regions adjacent to them, though these 2 tiles have 3 of them, as opposed to only 2 for the other 2 tiles, so that makes them a better spot to start. They are further enhanced given that there is a 1-tile mine region nearby. And yet, no doubt here, the top spot is this castle tile for both player 1 and 2, and where I also start. The main reason is because there's a good chance of completing this 2-tile city region and possibly even the castle adjoining it, while for the bottom right castle tile, it would be hard to complete any of these 2-tile regions. Well, that's it. I would love to read your thoughts on why one castle tile may be better to start on than the next. Just write them out in the comments. More to come on knowledge tiles in the next video, and until then, happy playing!